no opening statements. I'm going right to question and answer.
Mike, with what's happened with the cornerback room, Omillio obviously is a guy that you're probably going to rely on anyway, but maybe an elevated role now. How has he looked this summer in terms of getting ready for that opportunity?
He's made progress, and we were really excited. When situations like this occur, you're hoping for even more. So we're going to have to kick it into overdrive in terms of his development and what we ask him to do. But we've felt really good about it.
Just in general, how do you feel about your depth at cornerback with Hallman coming back, the guys like you mentioned, and if you have to move forward without Nazir?
I feel good about our depth, but not as good about Big Ten experience, right? I mean, we have Nazir and Rico that have a whole bunch of Big Ten experience, and not other guys that have a whole bunch of Big Ten experience. So talent level, feel good. Depth, feel pretty good. Experience, not as excited about that. That's just being honest.
As far as the corners go, the boundary and the field corner, just can you talk a little bit about how much of a difference is it for a guy like if you want to try, your field guy over on the boundary side?
It's really dependent on person, right? So, yes, there's a difference. The truth of the matter is the boundary corner is involved in tackling and blitzing at a little bit of a higher percentage. The field guys in a little bit more space and speed and space situations. Some guys are completely comfortable in both. Some are a lot more comfortable in a specific situation. And it's our job as coaches to make sure we identify, which way a kid goes, and we put him in a situation he's comfortable. Because you don't want to fit a round peg in a square hole, right? So some corners are very interchangeable, and others are just more comfortable with the speed and space, and some are just more comfortable with the tackling and blitzing.
And as far as Jameer and Deani, where do those corners kind of fit into that kind of definition?
See, that's the thing. They're still young enough with us that we're still evaluating that and trying to make the best decisions. I will tell you this, I don't believe either of them shy away from contact, and I think they both can run, so that at least gives us the skill set to try them at both, and now we have to evaluate their true comfort level.
What do you like about going down to Plateau for a couple weeks and getting away with all the guys?
I love the fact that you can sort of shut the rest of the world out and just develop relationships. And Coach Fix actually emphasized to us that we've installed this defense, even with the adjustments since last year. Coach Grimes installed this offense multiple times already. So this Platteville trip is not as much about X's and O's. The techniques, we've already taught them. It's more about the building of relationships, the building of trust, and I think that needs to be an emphasis. So I get to spend time with guys. Our schedule's changing a little bit where we're done a little bit earlier in the evening, so there is time to just grab guys and sit down and build relationships, because how truly deep that relationship is has a big impact on how you respond to adversity, and there will be adversity.
As a defensive coordinator, what was just the biggest challenge in defending Coach Grimes' offense in your first spring working against him?
All the shifts and adjustments that he forces you to make. You can never line up in one defense, one call, and expect to not have to make adjustments. There are constantly adjustments, and there's a lot of challenges of eye discipline. If a guy's eyes go in the wrong place, we all know that there's going to be issues, and there are a lot of challenges that he puts out there in that regard. So I think it is great for our development. The last thing I'll say is just the fact that we're getting punched in the mouth every day. I love the fact that we're getting punched in the mouth every day, and hopefully doing our fair share of punching in the mouth as well.
As a defense, where do you expect to be most improved this season?
Stopping the run. I think that we have gotten bigger, stronger, both mentally and physically up front, and we've also placed the emphasis on that, because Lord knows as the season goes on, especially some of those teams, the back end who are built that way, we demonstrated that needed to be an area we improved on, and I think it will be a huge improvement.
On those lines, have you had to sacrifice speed at all when you've gone to more size up front? Have you felt the deficiency there?
Obviously, we've tried our tails off to recruit so that, no, you don't sacrifice speed when you get more size out there. But, yeah, there is a little bit of give and take with that. I think that if you went to the NFL and looked at any given position, you took the average speed of a 5'9", 180 corner versus the average speed of a 6'2", 215 corner, there's going to be a difference, but we do think our big guys can run, and we're excited about their movement.
When you evaluate tackles for loss and how to get more of them, how much is it a scheme thing? How much is it just having playmakers? And where do you think you'll be better in that area?
I wish there was a formula that could give you an exact percentage. What percentage is about dudes? What percentage is about scheme? What percentage is about mentality? We have tried to tweak scheme a little bit to allow guys to. We know we need to improve takeaways and tackles for loss, but just as much, and maybe even more, we've attacked mentality where we want to understand those are the objectives. We can't be trying to hang on to do our job. We're playing football, not fitball. And I do believe if truly the top objectives are the defense or create negatives, take the ball away, and eliminate explosives, that will allow the guys to rock and roll. So it's a combination. And yes, recruiting brings dudes too. And I think we got some dudes.
Luke spoke really highly last week about how Tackett Curtis has developed and finally being healthy. What have you seen being his position coach, and where's he maybe ready to take that next step?
So two things. Number one, yes, being healthy is huge, right? And he's the type of kid who he's never going to complain. If he's not 100% healthy, he's never going to tell anybody. That's huge. But more than that, man, I think he truly feels like he has a grasp of everything we're trying to do, has ownership in exactly what we're trying to do. You can just see the confidence in the way he moves and how fast he pulls the trigger. There's no hesitation. When he sees it, he goes, because he has really grown in those areas. And like everybody, coaching confidence is so important, and I've been excited about how his has grown.
Luke also,
Go ahead. I would say with the inside linebackers too, obviously with Tackett and Christian, but behind them, what are you trying to look for from like Antaron Turner and others to back them up? We need to feel comfortable across the entire defense of having a two deep that we all trust. And when I say that we all trust, I don't mean simply that the coaches trust the twos, but when you all of a sudden put, the two field safety in, does the entire defense feel really good about that? When you put the two Mike backer in there, does the D-line feel really, really, really comfortable with it? So across the defense, when we say develop a two deep, that means a two deep that everybody trusts and feels real comfortable in. So that being said, the Ant Turners, the Heibergers, even some young guys like the Cooper Catalanos and Mason Postis, like, we need to make sure we have those twos that when they step on the field, everybody trusts and feels really, really comfortable. I do think there's guys with talent. I do think there's guys with intelligence, but certainly the experience has got to come, and it can't come as the season happens exclusively. It has to happen now.
Luke also talked last week about how the way last season finished, it offered y'all the opportunity for kind of reflection, evaluation on what y'all needed to do differently to get back to the standard. How was this off-season approach different from the past in that regard?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about complementary football. I don't think that we were a great team in terms of complementary football, where every single phase, offense, defense, special teams, culture, et cetera, was all pulling in the exact same direction. I think there's been a lot of talk of that, and we feel really good about that. I do think, as you look at the way season went on, continuing to build the relationships, because when the adversity strikes, you can see question marks in all of our minds. And I think that we built belief in the system, belief in the people, more importantly, so that when it does get difficult, people will stay together. And then the mentality of attack, specifically defensively, is a huge difference, because, quite honestly, you can't win hanging on for dear life. You can't win trying to survive the down or just hold on to your gap. So that mentality, I think, is a lot more aggressive, and that's changed. That's been big for us.
Over the last few years, safety hasn't been a spot that's rotated a ton. I think just with the guys at the top, you brought on a lot of depth of talent at that position. Do you see that as a spot you can rotate more, or is that something you need to have those guys out for communication?
So, truthfully, you can rotate that position more by package than just rotate throughout the game, because I do think the communication is critical. Same with linebacker. You need to rotate some for sure, but hopefully you can design it so that people have specific roles and specific packages, so they've really practiced that communication in that situation. But ultimately, right, if you feel good and trust and everybody feels good about the second group, it does give you that freedom. And we've got to play our best at the end of the year, so we've got to have a rotation for the first half of the year. We've got to be playing our best, which part of that's being our healthiest.
Christian, those final few.
What do you believe is going to be your strength of the defense this year?
What do I believe is going to be our strength? I think that our aggressive mindset is going to be significantly different. I think you'll see that both in terms of defense is called, but more so in terms of the way the guys are attacking. The belief, I think, is stronger than ever. I think that's really important. I think that the size and depth that we've created up front will be significantly different and be a strength for us. We've got to not just be able to hold up. That's not the mentality you can have. We have to be able to be on the attack, and we do have size, strength, and depth up front that's significant. And then in the back end, across the board at the safeties and corners, especially if Nye's rocking and rolling, we have guys that have a lot of experience at this level, and they communicate together really, 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 really well. The offense has forced us to do a really good job communicating and adjusting too, so I don't think anything phases the guys right now, and hopefully we need to hold that together even when something tough happens.
And you mentioned complementary football too. How do you think the new offense is going to help with the defense, maybe eat some clock and keep your guys off the field more often?
I think complementary football partially is understanding that the offense is a big part of the success of the defense, and the defense is a big part of the success of the offense, right? So how will the offense help? Well, it starts out by every day in practice, the physicality and the way we go up against each other. But on the field, yeah, certainly eating the clock helps the defense, especially the understanding of, hey, defense just had a long drive, or defense just had a rough drive. This is the time to eat the clock, right? Okay, defense is rolling right now. They're on their heels over there on the other side. This is the time to attack. Maybe we can pick up the tempo. Maybe we can go faster. Maybe we can take shots, because if it happened to be a 3-and-out, this is a time when it'd be okay. And just having a lot of discussions about when are those times. The defense understanding what are going to be the times that we're going to go for it on fourth down and being all in, because every time we go for it on fourth down, we're not going to get 100% of those. But if the defense is all in, it's not like, It's like, hey, we knew we were going to go for it on 4th and 2 in this situation, and we're going to win a lot. But there's going to be times we got to go out there, and the mentality when we take the field, there's been a lot more discussions about how we are working to make the other phase successful.
Coach, we've heard a lot about size and depth this offseason and adding to it on defense. What kind of conversations went into that in terms of, like, that's what you guys needed to do?
A lot, especially when you looked at the back end of the season. We know we didn't perform the back end of the season. Part of that was depth. Part of that was straight up size compared to some of the people we were lining up against. When you evaluate where you need to improve on defense, those were a couple of them that we really had to attack. And then the other big one was, hey, when the going does get tough, how do we respond? Does the belief splinter? So, I mean, those were the three big things. I will tell you, going into camp right now, I'm going to tell the guys, every instance of adversity, and there will be some, because our offense is good and difficult to defend. Every instance of adversity, I'm going to be looking for signs of resilience. I'm going to look at how you respond. What are the signs of resilience every opportunity that we get? And hopefully the guys understand that there's going to be adversity, and Coach Tress is looking to see how we respond every time. That's going to help us.
During those final few games, though, Christian Allegro, I mean, stat-wise, his numbers and his production really went up. Mm-hmm. what was the key to that growth, and in terms of, and obviously he earned more playing time too.
Yeah, so playing time's part of it, but I think experience and confidence, right? Even if you're a confident person, once you've gone out there and done it successfully, you start to think, I can do this every time, right? Challenge this year is going to be, he's going to be a little bit more noticeable. He's going to be a little bit more a guy that people have to point out, hey, we got to take care of this guy. And so not getting frustrated when that's the case, and he'll be a playmaker out there, but his confidence and belief and recognition, like, I can be a difference maker, you can see it.
Mike, a recruiting question for you. As you try to get bigger on the edges in particular, has that made recruiting that spot harder? Because I imagine those are guys that everybody's going after. Like,
Sure.
How do you kind of balance that out or attack that position now?
You can't necessarily only go for the ones that already have that size. You have to have a little bit of vision.
Sure.
You have to understand that these are still positions that require development, and that is really difficult in today's world with the transfer portal and things like that. You hope that guys understand that a little bit, but you also just hope that the relationships are built such and the communication is open enough that they understand that too. I think if you look at probably a Corey Walker coming out of high school, I guarantee you he wasn't 285 pounds coming out of high school, so you have to find some of that. Michael Garner, I guarantee you he wasn't 300 pounds coming out of high school. These are guys that develop, so we have to find some of that, and some of the ready-made products, we're going to have to battle our tails off.
You had a lot of...
Is getting this thing to where you guys want it been more difficult than you expected, would you say?
It's always difficult, and as a coach, I try to believe in the process and take it one day at a time. And at some point, you'll sit down and look back and say, darn, that was a lot harder than I anticipated being. But right now, it is a true belief in the program, the process. Knew it was going to be a difficult process. More difficult than I thought? I don't know, but knew it was going to be a difficult process. And continue to take the steps every day. That's how I think about it.
You had a lot of true freshmen early enroll in the spring. Based on what some of those guys did, are there any for sure that the staff's going to take a real hard look at in fall camp and be in the mix to get meaningful snaps on Saturdays?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I'll start out by saying this. I think you're giving yourself a chance when you come in early to be in that position, right? Because hopefully the learning and the adjusting's already taken place, and now they're at a point where they can just go play ball. I don't really want to go position by position. I don't know that's fair. I'll forget people. I know, Cooper Catalano all of a sudden is a guy that knows for the ball that you saw in high school. By the end of spring, you saw the same type of thing, and you saw people not blink an eye when he's out there with older guys. A Grant Dean is a guy that can really run and has football instincts, and I can imagine that on special teams he could possibly be an impact right off the bat. And I don't want to leave people out. I don't want to cheat anybody. Those are some right off the bat. I think at the corners, there's going to definitely be somebody who impacts us this year. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to throw a guess out there as exactly who and exactly when, but we're going to need them.
I know Tuff has kind of already been in this position as your assistant inside linebacker coach, now has that title. Has it changed at all in the last 7 months since that title's changed, or how has it changed your role, having somebody that kind of can run some of that stuff for you?
The more we work together, the more comfortable we are with each other, the more we know for a fact we're speaking the exact same language and there's no differing messages, and that allows me to, step out and work with some other guys a little bit more. Maybe be in the safety meetings a little bit more often because they're communicators just like the linebackers are. Maybe it is getting in there with the defensive line so that they understand, hey, it's the guys up the middle that make this thing work, and your toughness is our toughness. And it's allowed me to just develop relationships with other guys that are a little closer to position coach relationships than coordinator relationships. So I'm fully confident that the message that Coach Tuff and I send is exactly identical at this point, and so that allows me to build relationships with more guys a little bit more deep.
You were mentioning the takeaways needing to be better, tackles for loss needing to be better. How do you evaluate success in this 2025 season?
How do you evaluate success? Okay, so I will tell you, you mentioned those specific areas. Talk about our defensive objectives, two, right? First one is create negatives and takeaways while limiting explosives, and two is dominate in the clutch. So our guys have looked at every single day since spring ball. Hey, these are the objectives, and these are the numbers that put you in the top 10 defense in the nation in each of those areas. So they know, hey, if we hold people at the end of the year to under 2.5 20-yard gains per game, we're going to be in the top 10. You know, if we have over 8 TFLs per game at the end of the season, we're top. So they understand if we want to be top 10 nationally in each of these categories that we're emphasizing, exactly where they need to be. But ultimately, we know how do you evaluate success. A lot of it has to do with wins and losses, but I think a lot of it also has to do with, do you continue to see improvement in terms of play and confidence? Like I truly want at the end of the year, look at the year and see that there was never a dip in confidence or belief. And I think if we stay on that track, the results are coming. I truly believe that.